This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
Now Taxes is 100% free when you file in the TurboTax app if you didn't file with us last year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just do your own taxes in the app by 2/18.
What if I have lots of forms?
All good, all 100% free.
What if I had 3 jobs?
Still 100% free.
What if I once saw Bigfoot?
That has nothing to do with taxes, so still 100% free.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Now this is Taxes. See if you qualify in the TurboTax app. Excludes TurboTax Live, must start and file in app by 2/18.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion with me, your host, Stephen Wallace. After an engaging series of episodes covering the Women's Ashes, we're here today with a special guest, rising star in the world of horse racing journalism, Sam Martin. Sam, a familiar name to our podcast followers, joins us to reflect on her remarkable year in 2024. From writing for The Times at the Cheltenham Festival to attending Royal Ascot for the first time, she's had a year to remember. In this episode, Sam shares her experiences, discusses the equine stars of last year, and offers her expert predictions for the major races of 2025. Her knowledge, insight, and passion for horse racing shine through in what promises to be an exciting start to our racing episodes this year. Hello, Sam. Welcome back to the Paddock and the Pavilion. It's been a while.
It has. Thank you so much for having me back.
Yeah, it's 12 months ago, episode 243, when at that time we did a flat racing review with Kitty Trice and John Berry. How are you first?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Have you had a good Christmas?
Yeah, lovely, thank you. It's been great.
And did you get to watch any racing over Christmas? Live?
Yes, yeah.
Live?
Not live. Well, not technically live, no. But tuned in a lot on the telly.
I thought you were going to say that. Well, we're going to look back on your own busy year this year. There's lots of things happened to you this year. And we're also going to look back over the racing year of 2024. That's flat and jumps. But to start with, you said you watched a lot of racing on the television over Christmas, and there has been a lot. What was your highlight of all that action?
Well, I mean, I think Constitution Hill being back and just back full stop. I'm not talking about like back to the top level, just the fact he's on a race course. I think it was just absolutely fantastic. The fact he lined up in the first place and we had that mouth-watering clash with Lossiemouth. And for him to be so dominant was just really, really special. He put in a really long stride at one of the fences, I think, at one of the hurdles down the back. And I said then, he's back. He's going to win. There was no doubt in my mind at that point. He showed how well he was, and I think it's just the most incredible training performance. Obviously, it's been very well documented just how kind of tumultuous it's been for the yard and for the horse, and it's just great to see it all come together in time for the end of the year. It's ready to look ahead to 2025 and hopefully a successful time for him.
So you don't think he's back to his best yet then?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he won because he's the best horse. But he was the best horse in that race, but everything's kind of comparative. You have to be the best horse on a particular day, and he was. And you have to be the best horse out of the company, and he was. But, who knows what could happen at Cheltenham. Obviously, State Man was beaten this week. I think Brighter Days Ahead is wrongly going to the mares. We'll have to see. He's definitely looks like the winner at Cheltenham now because he will come on for the run. So yeah, they make no secret of it's all about Cheltenham, but a nice Grade 1 at Kempton, no one's complaining.
It'd be nice to see him run again before the champion hurdle.
It definitely would be. It would be fantastic to see him again because he just draws people in. The crowd's always so enthusiastic about him, and Nicky's always going to do what's best for the horse. If he's not up to it, then they won't bother. He has had a lot of time off. He's obviously had the colic and the mystery pain, nerve issues. So it's one of those things where you've just got to watch what he wants. But if we get to see him again, amazing.
He is now one of those sort of superstar horses that people like to see, isn't he?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. He's just got that kind of star quality about him, and it was probably the time when he's come off the bridle the most, but we know how dominant he can be, and that's extremely exciting for racing fans.
What were your thoughts then on his two major rivals, or probably three major rivals now for the champion hurdle crown?
Oh, I mean, like I said, I don't think State Man was necessarily at his best this week. It was fitness the time before, but I think we know he likes Cheltenham. He probably has a bit to find with Constitution Hill on Constitution Hill's best form. But we don't know what conditions are going to turn out being like. I think Lossiemouth should go to the champion hurdle because she's always going to be better suited to Cheltenham being a bit more of a stamina test than Kempton. And then if the mare, Brough, stays ahead, if she can go to the champion hurdle, I think it'd just make the race absolutely mouth-watering. It'd be a shame if she only went to the mares, but I mean that'd be a procession. So if Gigginstown want to win a race at the festival, they may as well send it to the mares.
Well, Constitution Hill now is sort of 7-4 on for the champion hurdle on the 11th of March.
Yeah, and rightly so, I think. Well, we'll have to, I doubt it will be smooth sailing to the day, but that's part of the drama of the sport and the drama of dealing with animals, isn't it?
It wasn't just about Constitution Hill, though, over the Christmas period. We also had fantastic wins by Banbridge, Sergino, and Galopin Des Champs.
Yeah, so Banbridge was brilliant. Obviously, Elaine Francais went out in front, set brilliant pace. I was thinking, what are they playing at, not going chasing him sooner, because we all saw what he did in the novice race last year. But he just got tired and he was perfectly entitled to towards the end, and Banbridge had the necessary momentum. He's always been a very good horse, a very underrated horse. And the world's his oyster, as it kind of has been for a long time. He's just finally had that big win, and Joseph O'Brien, as you know, having interviewed him, is absolutely fun. He's just fantastic, and I think as well, Sergino was probably one of the most perfect rounds of jumping from a novice that you could ask for. I've seen it twice now, and it's just goosebumps. It's fantastic. He's obviously very exciting. I wasn't necessarily on board with the fact that he was going chasing this year. I think they probably should have stayed over hurdles, but when he's as good as that, you may as well take your opportunities. And I think Galopin Des Champs was amazing, really, really amazing. He's just an absolute joy to watch from the front. I love a front runner, and I think he was superb.
Just picking up on a few of the points you mentioned there, Joseph O'Brien, I sort of wrote down some of the races now he's won as a trainer. It's quite amazing, really. He's won the Irish Gold Cup, the Melbourne Cup, the King George, Cox Plate, Irish Derby, St Leger, and he's also had winners at the Breeders' Cup and Royal Ascot. Quite an array of different winners there.
Amazing. I mean, I wish he would have more runners over jumps, because they're always like Fakir Duderie was very good to start off with, and they're just so beautifully schooled. And I mean, Solness won, and that was a very calculated decision to come to this race. They supplemented him, and I think he's very, very shrewd, and he's clearly amazing at whatever he turns his hand to. He was riding, now he is training, so he's still really young, and that's really exciting, I think.
I've also got a question for you about Galopin. Someone you know well, Dawn Leedon Bolger, asked
Yeah.
me to ask you,
Oh gosh.
is Galopin Des Champs now one of the greatest?
I think so. I was thinking about this the other day. If he hadn't have fallen in the Turners and he'd absolutely waltzed in, he would now, if he'd done what he's done since, still, he would now be regarded as one of the greatest. But I think he's just a remarkable horse in that he turns up every time. I don't think he's ever underperformed. And just he does what he has to do, but he does it with such flair. And even when he's beaten, he's never disgraced. And yeah, he's fantastic.
So do you think he's going to make it three in a row at the Cheltenham Gold Cup in March?
Yes, yeah, I do. When you think about some of the major trials, well, not trials because they're not trials, they're good races in their own right. But if you think of kind of the pathway to the race, you've got um, Royal Pagaille in Grey Dawning. I think it's good they're going. Royal Pagaille, I love him, he's incredible, but he's Haydock's territory. Grey Dawning, whether he's up to Galopin Des Champs' level, I'm not quite sure. Banbridge won't go to a Gold Cup. You've got Factor but I'd fancy Galopin Des Champs at the trip and the track over Factor personally. I think this year at least, Galopin Des Champs is the better horse. Factor he's young, he's going to learn more. Of course, only his first year in open company. So I think going forward, it's interesting to see how he'll be. But this year, this is another year for Galopin Des Champs, I think.
So as Mick Fitzgerald said on ITV Racing, National Hunt Racing is alive and well.
It's definitely alive. It showed its wellness this year, this winter so far, you could perhaps say. Definitely this week over Christmas. But there are definitely problems. But we can appreciate what we've got, and what we've had this week is very, very good racing.
You're listening to The Paddock and the Pavilion with me, Stephen Wallace. If you'd like to hear more about Sam Martin's journey into horse racing, check out my original interview with her in episode 184. It all started watching racing on TV with Grandad. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or on our YouTube channel. Now let's return to our new episode, Sam's Special Year, as we continue with Sam Martin. Let's turn to the year of Sam Martin 2024. I've written lots of things down here. You're going to know a lot more than I know about your year this year, but you really have done lots of things. I've written down here hosting at the London International Horse Show. Then you were writing articles in the Times, I think 8 articles during the Cheltenham Festival.
Yes.
That's just 2 things I've written down there, and there's others we can talk about. But let us know about those 2 things. How did they come about?
Well, I met Nick Stewart put me in contact with Brough Scott last December, November, December time, because they were looking to get a younger person on the writing team at the Times. And I was very grateful of the fact that they saw something in me. So did Rob Wright, that I'd be worthwhile getting involved. So it worked out that my first ever day properly working for the Times, properly working on a race course, was the Tuesday of the Cheltenham Festival. So talk about being thrown in at the deep end. But I did 2 articles in the lead up to it, which was interviewing Hughie Morrison about Not So Sleepy. Me and my very good friend Neve went down to the yard, and it was such an incredible morning. So I'm very grateful to Hughie for that. And then the other was about me and about my pathway into racing. So that was on the Tuesday. And then I did a couple of I did diaries for every day, so just talking about some of the main talking points. So anyway, a couple of those. We didn't have a Saturday paper, so that was for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then I had a big article which was whether the Cheltenham Festival has lost its sparkle, which got a mention on ITV, ruffled a few feathers, but that's what I want to do, proper journalism work. Talking about, the kind of below par racegoer experience that we saw over the first few days at Cheltenham. Obviously the new changes that they're trying to make for next year are going to be really interesting. But yeah, so it was genuinely the coolest experience ever, to be in the press room for those 4 days. Such incredible racing, to work alongside Brough Scott. It's an absolute honour, and I'm really excited to carry on. We've got a few things in the pipeline, and the festival again in 2025, so it's very cool.
Yeah, what was it like working with Brough? I mean, he's been in the industry so long.
He's incredible. He's so willing to answer questions. and like advise me of things and like listen to what I have to say and kind of seeing he has such an active mind and he's so passionate about racing and the way that he puts things into words is just incredible and like the his kind of the way he crafts an article and everything and it's I'm just completely in awe of him. Yeah, I mean my granddad was a massive fan of Brugh's and he would be absolutely losing his mind to know that I was literally working alongside Brough in a press room. So it's incredible. Been very much a pinch me moment. I'm so grateful to Brough and to Rob Wright for taking a chance on me and hopefully I'm not letting them down.
I'm sure you're not doing that. I was so impressed when he came on the Paddock and the Pavilion for my 250th episode. He was so well prepared.
That's the thing. He's incredible. He's like encyclopedic knowledge of racing and of the stories is it's incredible. The story such funny. He's just a very funny person when he tells a story and yeah, he's fantastic.
And you were hosting quite recently at the London International Horse Show. What did that involve?
Yeah, so I hosted a panel of four people who work in the industry. We were talking about working with horses and working with thoroughbreds in particular. It was a little bit out of my comfort zone. It was my first time I'd properly hosted a panel in person, but I think it went okay. It was just really nice. It was good for racing to have that platform at such a big equine event.
And how long was the sort of chat amongst the four people with you?
About I don't know how long it actually lasted. It was a bit of a blur. About 20 minutes or so. I had like a little script and we just went through and hearing about all their experiences and everything. So it was very good.
The moment you get more than one guest, it's always making sure that you're giving everyone equal time, aren't you?
That's what I was trying to do. Yes, I didn't want anyone to feel left out.
And you were also presenting at the Racing Foundation conference.
Yes, so I was on a panel there that was hosted by Rishi Prasad about like young people in racing, the sustainability of the sport, and kind of the welfare of horses, and kind of looking to the future and what racing can do. And I mean that was insane. That was such a cool experience. I mean, it's my specialist subject talking about young people in racing, so to have that platform, and I'm so grateful to Ree and Antonio and Rihanna at the Racing Foundation who gave us the opportunity for young girls, just gave us the opportunity to stand in front of 290 people who are deeply involved in the racing industry and get to talk about the sport we love. And it was fantastic. It was such an incredible, like the other speakers were phenomenal, and to be able to just listen to all their ideas, and it was a brilliant kind of it was like a workshop session where everybody was like talking to each other and putting forward ideas about what racing can do to improve. And I think that really showed that there are so many dynamic minds in racing, and in that sense, we're in a really good place. And I think the main message with that just needs to transfer up like kind of up the hierarchy to the top, and people need to be willing to be on the front foot and be active and make these changes because, there are a lot of people with a lot of really good ideas out there.
Gave you a lot of hope for the future then.
It did, yeah, actually, it did. Yeah, I think we're in a good place in that sense that there's so many people in this sport who are so, so, so passionate. And on their watch, the sport isn't going to decline, but it just needs the things in place to be able to make these changes happen.
You also, I think, went to Royal Ascot for the first time.
Did, yes. Dressed up and everything. Wore my heels till the fourth race. Quite proud of myself. But yeah, it was incredible. I was basically on Taylor Swift watch. So I'd be required to write if Taylor Swift was there. She didn't turn up. That was a rumor, that may or may not have been made by Ed Chamberlain. We had a laugh about that. But yes, it was great. It was an incredible atmosphere to see such fantastic horses, like Porta Fortuna for Donna O'Brien. It was mental, crazy day, completely odd, but incredible. So it's such a different world, but it's a very welcoming world at Royal Ascot. Yeah, it's great.
And you were there with your press pass?
Yes, I managed to get a press pass, which I was very grateful to the racecourse for, working with the Times, like I said, on Taylor Swift watch. see if we could get any space in the paper for her. But unfortunately, she wasn't there. But it was an incredible opportunity, and to work with Brough that day as well, and what he was doing was fantastic.
Anything I've missed? There's been so many things that you've done this year.
Oh, I don't know.
Any new courses? Any new courses you've been to this year?
Ascot was new actually.
Yes, Ascot. Yeah.
I'd never been to Ascot before, but I ended up there for pony racing in April time. May, maybe start May, can't remember when. But that was great because we got a tour around the race course. I love reporting on pony racing, it's actually amazing. So I was there for that, and then I've done it at Ascot a few times actually since, obviously Royal Ascot. Then I went to Ascot again to be interviewed for a young people, well, Gen Z article in the Racing Post with my friend Neve. And then I also went for the conference was at Ascot, and then I went for jumping in November, which was nice. So I've had a good. I spent a lot of time at Ascot train station this year.
It does get very crowded, Ascot train station at Royal Ascot. I know from
Yeah,
experience.
it does a bit, doesn't it? Yeah.
The other thing, how's the riding going? Are you still riding?
I am still riding, yes, not nearly as much as I used to. Time and pennies are making it a little bit more difficult, but still riding. Some nice horses, so I'm very lucky on that front.
Let's move on then to have a little look back at 2024. Not in too much detail, but I wanted to get your horse of the year for the flat and the jumps.
I think horse of the year for the flat. I wasn't that enthralled by this flat season, I will be honest. It wasn't quite, yeah, I don't know, it didn't kind of have the same buzz as it normally does for me this year. But I suppose Porta Fortuna, if I can get my words out, would be a candidate for that, or Blue Stocking, very good. But I suppose City of Troy is going to be the horse of the season that's remembered for, because it was just crazy, really, everything with him, the disappointment and the Guineas and then Derby. And yeah, it was good to see him at the Juddmonte International. Nice to get to actually see him in person. It was really cool. But I think he'll be what it's remembered for. Obviously a very nice horse, very controversial horse, bit like Constitution Hill. It's been one of those where it's kind of gone on and on and on with different things, and obviously ended in disappointment in the Breeders' Cup, which was a shame. But I think he'd be my flat horse of the year. And then over jumps, we've already discussed him, but Galopin des Champs secured the title, I think, for me with his run over Christmas. It was just superb.
And your race of the year for 2024.
It was really hard to choose this one actually. Probably went for Importer when the Kerry National, because that was insane. Just completely glorious because he's amazing. But away from sentimentalities, I think the Grand National was fantastic. The changes in my mind worked. Everybody came home safe. That's the most important thing. And I also tipped I Am Maximus over a year before the race, for the race. So I was quite smug about that one. But I do think it was terrifying to watch the National, because you kind of constantly, after 2023, when it was just terrible, you are kind of expecting it to go wrong. But no, it was great. It was a really good race. I need to watch it back actually. But yeah, it was a good race.
And amongst all those moments, horses of the year, your own experiences, what was your favourite moment of 2024 racing wise?
Probably seeing Flooring Porter finish second in the Stayers, being there, being in the paddock with him beforehand, and like actually watching him was just insane. And then to see as well the following day Monkfish in the Gold Cup, two horses I've loved for absolutely ever. So they were really special moments. They're probably my highlights.
Next up, we're going to get you to give some predictions. You've done some of this already through the podcast. So Cheltenham Gold Cup, I think I know the answer to that one.
Galopin des Champs.
Champion Hurdle.
Oh, Constitution Hill.
The Champion Chase.
Oh gosh. At the moment, John Bon really. I don't think an Ergamine will quite have the legs.
And the Grand National. What did you make of Iron Maximus's performance the other day?
I just thought they were handling him very softly and then obviously pulled up. So there's something might come out from that. But I think the yard's not exactly firing at its best at the moment. He'll probably go down the handicap a couple of pounds for it. And April's a long way off, so I don't see why he couldn't do a back-to-back. The anti-post market at the minute, when you actually look down there as kind of prospective runners for the National, is ridiculous. Like most of them won't go, most of them won't even be entered. So it's a bit difficult on that front to check things, and most of them won't get in as well. A lot of them are fairly near to the top of the market, but I saw Gentleman's Game in there and Brave Man's Game. So maybe if those two go, they've got a bit of star quality. I think Brave Man's Game needs the trip now. So I'd be interested to see how those two would go in a national. But ask me again when the weights come out.
And now moving on to the flat. What about the 1,000 guineas and the 2,000 guineas?
Oh, this is a difficult one. You always ask me this, and I always struggle with this. I
Well, last year I
think
think the 2,000 guineas winner probably hadn't even run by the time we spoke, I don't suppose.
I don't think he had. No. For 2000 guineas this year, well, for 2025, there's a horse called Salal, who's the Frankel half brother to last year's 1,000 guineas winner, Amalka. He had quite a nice starting point. I think it was at Yarmouth in October. But Salal, if I'm probably not pronouncing that right. And then there's
How do you
also
spell that?
Sallaal. One of those words. There are a lot of vowels. Um, and then there's also Anno Domini for Charlie Appleby, but he'll have loads in the race, and I think he's probably got the favourite. 1,000 guineas. Dermot Wells actually got Queen Kindly's Night of Thunder filly, called Bint Queen Kindly, which isn't the best name. But she's unraced, and her sister actually ran in Morges 1,000 guineas. So I imagine they're looking at that, or at least the Irish equivalent for this filly. But yeah, it's I always find, I think, like you say, you can get some really nice unraced horses, and when you look down, the Racing Post doesn't have the Newmarket guineas yet. So I was looking down the Irish guineas lists, and there's some incredibly well bred horses, but it depends how much time they take. They've all probably got the pedigrees at least to win a guineas, but it's whether they're actually going to be ready.
And even further afield, that I'm getting a bit optimistic here, but if you can pick the winner of the Derby.
Grafton Street, it's Ennis Diamond. Well, out of Ennis Diamond by Dubawi, he is. So I really liked the mare. She's cool. And then this is an unraced horse, actually, I think with Aidan. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully he will appear at some point about end of March time in a maiden, and we'll see what we're working with. But Grafton Street for the Derby, I think.
And a horse to follow in 2025. This can be flat or jumps.
Oh, a horse called No Questions Asked pops into my head for the Ben Pauling team. He's had 3 starts so far this national hunt season in novice hurdles. Technically should have won all 3, if you ask me. He's been first, second or third, and then won. But he's a very keen going sort. He can make himself a bit of trouble purely for the fact he's just keen going. It takes a lot of He takes a lot of riding. But I think he's got we know Ben Pauling's very good at placing horses, so I think he's got a massive future. Hopefully he'll get a nice prize at one of the festivals towards the end of the year. Well, end of the season, sorry, but No Questions Asked.
And because you picked a national hunt horse, I've got to ask you for a horse to follow on the flat.
Well, I was going to say one for the Oaks, which is Sand Trap for Rafe Beckett. I could probably just say anything Rafe Beckett runs, because I think he's going to have an amazing year. But Sand Trap doesn't have the pedigree necessarily for an Oaks, but she kept on over a mile at Deauville last time, and I think even if she doesn't go to the Oaks, she could be quite an interesting filly.
I've got one more question now I wrote down a while back. What do you think to the David Power Jockeys Cup?
It's a lot of money.
Yeah,
And that's
500
obviously very
grand for
good.
the winner. Yeah.
It's incredible. It's a ridiculous amount of money. A good amount of money because jockeys deserve it, obviously. Whether it needs to be that high is perhaps another thing. But it's great, and I know all the jockeys involved are gonna love it. What I'm interested in about it is the idea that it's going to raise the profile of jockeys and kind of interest new fans. They have a massive marketing budget, and I'm interested to see how that's going to play out because, not you went to they have like a Great British Racing have a jockeys thing when they do the big events like at London International Horse Show, and I don't think many people walking past would be able to tell you anybody on there if they hadn't got their names above their heads. Like Harry Skelton was there, Harry Cobden were all on this wall, Holly Doyle, Oisin Murphy. And I don't think jockeys are necessarily recognisable to people outside of racing. So hopefully that could be a really meaningful step forward for the sport, using this massive marketing budget that they've got to try and make racing people into wider celebrities rather than, or not even celebrities, just well-known people outside of our little racing bubble.
Yeah, because the first prize for the jockeys, 500,000, 200,000 second, 100,000 third, and the first prize for the trainers only 50,000.
Yes, I think I don't know who's leading that actually. We'll have to have a look, but I imagine there'll be plenty of trainers who are very, very happy with that. I mean, if Dan Skelton gets it, he might be asking if it can be added to the proper prize money rankings. But no, it's definitely an interesting thing. It's a bit of an excitement. The jockeys seem to be enjoying it, and then they're of course doing very good social media content with it, and that's obviously very important. So yeah, it's good.
And that's something very close to your heart, to get more people interested in racing, particularly young people.
Absolutely, yes. I think it's critical. I know how much joy as a young person I've had growing up from the age of, I don't know, 10 when I was really conscious of racing, or younger, and probably younger actually. And it's brought me so much joy, so many opportunities, and I don't see why that shouldn't be made accessible to anybody who, regardless of the background, regardless of even how old they are. I think there's plenty to be found in racing, and people just need to know about it.
Well, with people like you about, Sam, they will do. Your granddad must be looking down on you now, very proud of what you've already achieved in racing.
Thank you. I hope so.
So when are you back to Oxford University for your second year?
Yes, second year. That is the 12th, I think, of January, at least the day after the Classic Chase Day. So me and Mum are off to Warwick, and then I go back to uni the next day.
Oh, I know it well, having been there when you went, I think 2 years ago when John Bon ran in the
Yes, we were there, weren't we?
Classic
Yeah.
Chase 50th anniversary year, I think.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. I remember it being very wet and cold, but
it was freezing. It was really cold.
Yeah. So, and then I suppose all roads then lead to Cheltenham on the 11th of March.
Yes, that's what my entire life is turned towards in the first 3 months of the year. So yeah, I'm looking forward to cracking on and making sure we're ready for that.
But lots of essays to write before then.
Oh, so many.
Well, it's all good practice for all those articles you write in the Times and the Racing Post.
Yeah, that's my logic anyway.
Yeah. Thank you very much again, Sam, for joining us on the Paddock and the Pavilion. And the very best of luck for 2025.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.